So, uh, this is the book I'm reading from this book, and it contains 12 books. So, I will start from the first book. So, the first book begins I learned from my grandfather Virus to use good manners and to put restraint on anger. Before I go further. I pass through this park pretty much every day, and this is the other section of the park where I generally pass through, and there is an old lady. So I meet her every single day. I don't know her, who she is, but every single time I cross, passes by, I pass by her, she says Jai Shri Ram every single time, and like I don't know her, and I say in return like Jai Shri Ram, and I mean it happened to me a couple of days ago for the first time, and it happened to me again today. And when the first time it happened to me, I was just going through. I was, you know, probably busy with my own world, and she was walking by, and I tried to pass her, and she said just now, and it immediately made my day better. And I was, because there is a mention of good manners in this book, so I wanted to just add that those are called etiquettes. And whenever she says Jai Shri Ram, and Jai Shri Ram, I say in response Jai Shri Ram, it immediately make my day better for some reason. And you know these are called selfless deeds. Although so the good, because of the good manners I just mentioned this way. In the famous memory of my father, I had a pattern of modesty and manliness. From my mother, I learned to be poised and generous, to keep myself not only from evil deeds, but even from evil thoughts, and to live with simplicity, which is far more customary among the rich. I owe it to my great grandfather that I do not attend public lectures and discussion, but had good and able teachers at home. I owe him also the knowledge that for things of this nature a man should count no expense too great. My tutor taught me not to favor either green or blue at chariot races, nor in the contest of gladiator to be supporter either of the light or heavy armed. He taught me also to endure labor, not to need many things to serve myself without troubling others, not to intermingle in the affairs of others, and not easily to listen to slanders against them. From Diagnostus, I had the lesson not to busy myself about the vain things, not to credit the great profession of such as to pretend to work wonders, or of sorcerers about their charm. Sorcerers are magicians, uh, and their expelling of demons and the like, not keep quail for fighting or divination, not to run after such things, to suffer freedom of speech in others, and to apply myself heartily to philosophy. Him also I must thank for my heartily first hearing first Pechias and Tendiasis and Marcinus, that I wrote dialogues in my youth and took a liking to the philosopher's palate and skin, and to the other things which by Grecian discipline belong to that profession. To, to Recticus, I owe my first apprehensions that my nature needed reform and cure, and that I do not fall into the ambition of the common sophist. Sophist are philosopher of different school, either by composing speculative writings or by declaiming harangues of exhortation in public. Further, that I never strove to be admired by ostentation of great patience in, in an ascetic life, or by display of activity and application, that I gave over the study of rhetoric, poetry, and the graces of language, there, and that I do not place my house in senatorial robes or practice any similar affection. I observed also the simplicity of style in his letter, particularly in that which he wrote to my mother for Seniasa. I learned from him to be easily appeased and to be readily reconciled with those who had displeased me or given cause of offense. So soon as they incline to make their peace, to read with care, not to rest satisfied with a slight and superficial knowledge, nor quickly to assent to great talkers, I have him to thank that I meet the discourses of Epictetus, which he furnished me from his library. From Apollonius, I learned true liberty and tenacity of purpose to regard nothing else, even in the smallest degree, but reason always and always to remain unaltered in the agonies of the pains, in the losses of children, or in the long diseases. He afforded me a living example of how the same man can, upon occasion, being most yielding and most inflexible, he can patient in exposition and as might well be seen esteemed with fine skill and ability in teaching others the principles of philosophy as the least of his own endowments. It was from him that I learned how to receive from friends that are thought favors without seeming humbled by the giver or sensible of the gift. Sectus was my pattern of the benign temper and his family the model of a household governed by true paternal affection and the steadfast purpose of the living according to the nature. Here I could learn to be grave without affection, to observe sagaciously the several disposition and inclination of my friends, to tolerate the ignorant and those who follow current opinions without examination. His conversation showed how a man may accommodate himself to all men and all companies, for though companionship with him was sweeter and more pleasing than any sort of flattery, yet he was at the same time highly respected and reverenced. No man was ever, no man was ever more happy than he in comprehending, finding out, and arranging in exacting order the great maxims necessary for the conduct of life. His example taught me to suppress even the least appearance of anger or any other passion, but still, with all this perfect tranquility, to possess the tenderest and the most affectionate heart, to be apt to approve others, yet without noise, to have much learning and little ostentation. I learned from Alexander the grammarian to avoid censoring others, to refrain from flouting them for barbarian solution or any false enunciation. Rather, I was to dexterously and rightly pronounce the words in my answer, conforming approval or objection to the matter itself and avoiding discussion of the expression or to use some other form of courteous suggestion. Fronato made me sensible to how much of envy, deceit, and hypocrisy surrounds princes, and that generally those whom we account nobly born have somehow less natural affection. I learned from Alexander the Platonist, not often nor with great necessity to say or to write any man in a letter, that I am not at leisure, nor thus under pretext of urgent affairs to make a practice of excusing myself from the duties which, according to our various ties, we owe to those with whom we live. From Catullus, I learned not to condemn any friend's expostulation, even though it were unjust, but to try to recall him to his former disposition, to stint no praise in speaking of my master, as is recounted of Domitius and Ethanodorus. These Greek words are a bit difficult to pronounce, especially their names. Uh, and to love my children with true affection. From Severus, my brother, I learned to love my kinsmen, to love truth, to love justice. Through him I came to know Theresa, Therese, Cherisi, Helvidius, Cato, Dion, and Brutus. He gave me my first conception of commonwealth founded upon equity laws and administered with equality of right, and of monarchy whose chief concern is the freedom of its subjects. From him I learned likewise a constant and harmonious devotion to philosophy, to be ready to do good, to be generous with all my heart. He taught me to be good hope. He taught me to be of good hope and trustful of the affection of my friends. I observed in him the candor in declaring what he condemned in the conduct of others, and so frank and open was his behavior that his friends might easily see, without the trouble of conjecture, what he liked and disliked. The counsels of the Maximus taught me to condemn, to command myself, to judge clearly, to be of good courage in sickness and other misfortune, to be moderate, gentle, yet serious in disposition, and to accomplish my appointed task without repining. All men believed that he spoke as he thought, and whatever he did, they knew it was done with good intent. I never found him surprised or astonished at anything. He was never in hurry, never shrank from his purpose. He never at a loss or dejected. At a loss or dejected, he was no facile smiler, but neither was he passionate or suspicious. He was ready to do good, to forgive, and to speak the truth, and to give the impression of unperverted rectitude rather than the reformed character. No man could ever think himself despised by Maximus, and no one ever ventured to think himself his superior. He had also a good gift of humor. I learned from my father gentleness and undeviating constancy in judgment formed after due reflection, not to puffed up with glory as men understand it, to be laborious and assiduous. He taught me to give already hearing to any man who offered any, anything tending to the common good, to mete out impartial justice to everyone, to apprehend rightly when civility and when clemency should be used, to abstain from all impure lust, and to use humanity towards all men. Thus he left his friends at liberty to sup with him or not, to go abroad with him or not, exactly as they inclined, and they found him still the same as if some urgent business had prevented them from obeying his commands. I learned from him accuracy and patience in counsel, for he never quitted an inquiry satisfied with the first impression. I observed his zeal to retain his friend without being fickle or even fond, his contentment in every condition, his cheerfulness, his forethought about very distant events, his unostentatious attention to the smallest detail, his restraint of all popular applause and flattery, ever watchful of the needs of the empire, a careful steward of the public revenue. He was a tolerant of the censure of others in affairs of that kind. He was neither a superstitious worshipper of gods, nor an ambitious pleaser of men, nor studious of popularity, but in all things sober and steadfast, well skilled in what was honorable, never affecting novelties as to as to uh, as to things which make the ease of life and which fortune can supply in such abundance. He used them without pride and yet with all freedom, enjoyed them without affection when they were present, and when absent he found no want of them. No man could call him sophist, buffoon. Buffoon means a joker, somebody you could make fun of, or pedant. He was a man of ripe experience, a full man, one who could not be flattered and who could govern himself as well as others. I further observed that he honored all who were true philosophers without upbraiding the rest, and without being led astray by any. His manners were easy, his conversation delightful, but not cloying. He took regular but moderate care of his body, neither as one over fond of life or of the adornment of his person, nor as one who despised these things. Thus, through his own care, he seldom needed any medicine, whether slaves or portions, oceans. It was his special merit to yield without envy to any who had acquired any special faculty, as either eloquence or learning in the law, in the ancient customs or the like, and he aided much men strenuously, so that every one of them might be regarded and esteemed for his special excellence. He observed carefully the ancient custom of his forefather and preserved without appearance of affection the ways of his native land. He was not fickle or capricious and loved not change of place or employment. After his violent fit of headaches, he would return fresh and vigorous to his wonted affairs. Of secret he had few, and these seldom, and such only as concerned public matters. He displayed this discretion and moderation in executing shows of for the entertainment of the people in his public works in largest largesses and the like, and in all those things he acted like one who regarded only what was right and becoming in the things themselves, and not the reputation that might follow after. He never bathed at the unreasonable hour, had no vanity in building, was never solicitous either about his food or about the make or color of his cloth or about the beauty of his servants. His dress came from Lorient, his villa on the coast, and was of Lanuvian wool for the most part. It was remembered how he used the tax collector at Tusculum, who asked his pardon, and all his behavior was a piece with that. He was far from being inhuman or in, implacable or violent, never doing anything with such keenness that one could say he was sweating about it. In all things he reasoned distinctly, as one at leisure, calmly, regularly, resolutely, and consistently. A man might fairly apply that to him, which in recorded of Socrates, that he could both abstain from and enjoy these things, in want whereof many some show themselves weak, and in possession intemperate, to be strong in abstinence and temperature in enjoyment, to be sober in both. These are the qualities of men, perfect and invincible soul, as shown in the sickness of Maximus. To the gods I owe that I had good grandfathers and parents, a good sister, good teachers, good servants, good kinsmen, and friend, good almost them, all of them. I have to thank them that I never through haste and rashness offend in any one of them, though my temper was such as might have led them to it, had occasionally offended, offered occasion it had occasion offered, but my but but by their goodness no such concurrence of circumstances happened as could discover my weakness. I am further thankful that I was not longer brought up with my grandfather's concubine, that I retained concubine are prostitutes. Yeah, they used to have prostitutes in the kingdom to serve and pleasure the king and the aristocrats. That I retained my modesty and refrained any longer than need have been from the pleasures of love. It is due to the gods that I lived under the government of such a prince and father as could take from me all vain glory and convince me that I was not impossible for a prince to live in a court without guards, gorgeous robes, torches, statues, or such pieces of state and magnificence, but that he may reduce himself almost to the state of a private man, and yet not become more mean or remiss in those public affairs wherein power and authority are requested. I thank the gods that I have had such a brother as by his disposition might stir me to take care of himself, while at the same time he delighted me by his respect and love. I thank them that my children neither wanted good natural disposi- disposition, nor were disformed in bodies. I owe it to their good guidance that I made no greater progress in rhetoric and purity and in other studies which might have engrossed my mind, that I found myself successful in them. By the God's grace, I forestalled the wishes of those by whom I was brought up in promoting them to the dignities they seemed most to desire, and I did not put them off with the robes that, since they were but young, I would do it hereafter. I owe it to the gods that I ever knew Aurelius, Recticus, and Maximus, that I have had occasion often and effectively to mediate with myself and inquire what is truly the life according to the nature, and as far as it lies within the dispensation of the gods to give suggestion, help, or inspiration. There is nothing to prevent my having already realized that life. I have fallen short of it by my own fault, and because I have given no heed to the inward monitions and almost direct instructions from of the God, to whom we thank that my body hath no long endured the stress of life, a life as I have led. By their goodness, I have never had to do with either Benedicta or Theodotus. And thereafter, when I fallen into some foolish passions, I soon cured. I gave thanks that I, having often been displeased with Recticus, I never did anything to him which afterward I might have had occasion to repent. That through that though my mother was destined to die young, she lived with me all her later years, that as often as inclined to succor any who were either poor or had fallen into some distress, I was never answered that there was not ready money enough to do it, and that I myself never had need of the like succor from the other. I must be grateful too that I have such a wife so obedient, so loving, so ingenious, that I had choice of fit and able men to whom I might have committed the education of my children. I have received divine aids in dreams, as in particular how I might stay my spitting of blood and cure my vertigo. That good fortune happily fell to me at siesta. The God watched over me also when I first applied myself to philosophy, for I fell not only not into the hands of any sophist, nor sat poring over many volumes, nor devoted myself to solving syllogism or stargazing, that all these things should be so happily fall out. There was a great need, both for the help of the fortune and for the aid of the gods. So this is the first book. So I hope I did. So you can put a headphone on and can listen to the whole first book as I've just recorded. Thank you.